Well, here we are, gang. The final lesson in our series on giving and receiving. We'll go into this lesson here. We want to focus more so on the law of giving and receiving. For me, it's been an absolute joy to actually engage in this series and to connect with you all in regards to this series. So hopefully we'll have another fruitful and productive lesson and come to some more insights and understanding of how we can more consciously and more intentionally get into the flow of giving and receiving. Now, some ideas that we went into during previous lessons in this series is that it is very natural for there to be energy exchange. Energy exchange is happening all the time. Everything that occurs does so through the process of energy exchange. I breathe in oxygen that comes from the plants. I breathe out carbon dioxide that the plants feed upon. Energy exchange. Everything that is occurring occurs through the process of energy exchange. Another idea that we established is that giving and receiving is not just a wonderful social grace. We as living beings and we as beings that are children of God, we are meant to give. We are meant to receive. Sometimes in our culture, this understanding does not get the attention and the focus and the educational opportunity that it deserves. But in order to live a fulfilling and successful and charmed life, we have to open ourselves up to giving as well as open ourselves up to receiving. We are meant to be givers from the standpoint that as children of God, we take on the same nature as God. God has a nature to itself to where it is always expressing, always expanding, always bringing forth blessings and good and creativity from the unmanifested realm into the manifested realm. We are the exact same way. We are meant to receive goodness and nurturing and guidance and substance and love from the divine within, but we are meant to receive this not to hoard it for ourselves. We are meant to express it. We are meant to expand upon it like the flower. And as we express and expand what we get from God's goodness, it has an automatic effect of giving. The flower is not seeking to give. The flower just seeks to be a flower. And when the flower is a flower, it gives off beauty and fragrance and aesthetically pleasing appearance for the eyes. So we are meant to give as well as we are meant to receive. So my contention is, as long as it is true that we are built for this, we might as well do so consciously. We might as well do so intentionally. One of the other ideas that we discussed in this series is the idea of, in order to give consciously and in order to receive consciously, we should do it from a mindset and a heart set of love, a mindset and a heart set of cheer. If I pass on something to you, and in my passing it on to you, I'm grumbling and groaning and complaining about what I'm doing, that's not true giving, because I have some sort of attachment to what it is that I'm passing on to you, and the fact that I'm passing it on to you, that unhealthy attachment causes me to feel a sense of lack or a sense of disgruntledness. Giving and receiving requires doing so from a mindset of love and a mindset of true connection with the divine. That is, when we talk about our prayer of our offering blessing, where we say, divine love flowing from me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, all that I receive, and I am grateful. Do you ever wonder what it is that does the multiplying? It's consciousness. When our consciousness is such to where we give and receive based upon love, based upon our that is the multiplying agency that makes what we give have a greater effect beyond the value of what's given. And it is the agency that makes what we receive have a greater effect than what it is we receive, than the value of what it is that is received. I'll prove it to you. You can eat the healthiest of foods every day. Organic, plenty of water, plenty of fresh fruits and vegetables. But if you eat those foods from a consciousness of sadness, a consciousness of anger, a consciousness of frustration, you neutralize the nourishing effect that those foods have because you're introducing something into your system that counteracts the neutralizing effect. Make sense? Mindset is what multiplies. Earlier in this series, we talked about the idea that in order to give and in order to receive, it requires that we have to loosen our grip. We have to be willing to loosen our grip and open up so that which we are giving flows effortlessly from us, and that which we are receiving flows effortlessly to us. But loosening our grip doesn't just mean opening up the channels for that flow. Loosening our grip also means loosening up and eliminating those error thoughts that impede the process. It's kind of hard for me to give if I have something about me in my mind that's holding on to greed. If I have unhealthy attachments to the things that I have and the things that I possess, it's going to be very hard for me to give. If I do give, I'm going to give from being disgruntled. But also in receiving, I have to let go of thoughts of not being worthy, thoughts of not being enough, thoughts of I don't deserve, thoughts that what is coming to me doesn't need to come to me because I'm inadequate. So it requires more than anything else releasing those beliefs in consciousness that impede the process of giving and receiving. Giving and receiving is a law. There is a law to giving and receiving. And I can think of no better scripture in the Bible than in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 6, to really talk about this. Because there are many principles in here that are to be highlighted. Now, we referred to verse 38 earlier in the series. Give and it will be given unto you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over will be put into your bosom. For the same measure that you use, it will be measured back to you. But chapter 37 has some helpful information here. Judge not, and you shall not be judged. Condemn not, and you shall not be condemned. Forgive, and you shall be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put into your bosom. For the same measure that you use, it will be measured back to you. It is very important that in our desire for spiritual growth and in our wanting to grow spiritually, that we add the component of giving and receiving. If giving and receiving is lacking in the spiritual quest, it will minimize the rate of growth. Prayer and meditation, wonderful things. Highly recommend them. Maintaining thoughts of love, beauty, goodness, and order, wonderful things. I highly recommend them. But if we just keep the good stuff to ourselves, we minimize our growth in what it is that we can grow into in God. So that's why when it says, judge not, and you shall be judged. It's talking about coming from a mindset of true appreciation and truly seeing people for who they are, and then relating to them based upon that seeing, treating them based upon that seeing, having a mindset of forgiveness and extending that forgiveness out to where people can feel it. So again, we're expressing and expanding as conscious living beings. Condemn not, meaning not condemning people. But there's also more things that we can put here. Don't just harbor feelings and thoughts of love. Be loving to people. Treat people based upon love. Don't just think abundance. Be abundance and extend it out to people. Extend it out into the world. And then that's what activates those very same things coming back to us. If you seek financial abundance, if that's what you want, and I'm specifying financial abundance because a lot of times when we think of abundance and prosperity, we only limit it to money. But really, abundance and prosperity is the flow of all good things that fortify life. Love, beauty, joy, purpose, service. All of those things fortify life. So when we allow those things to come to us and we put them out into the world, they come back. If you want financial abundance, give financially. Give financially. If you're a part of a spiritual community, get into the practice of tithing. Get into the practice of giving that 10%. If you don't have 10%, give 10 pennies. But give those 10 pennies from a consciousness of love and light and allow that flow to happen. And it will create that abundance coming back to you. Give love and it will come back to you. Give joy and it will come back to you. Give justice and it will come back to you. Give peace and it will come back to you. That's the law of giving and receiving. Giving and receiving. And what is important in this law is where our faith is placed. One of the things that I'm learning, one of my goals for 2020 is to become a minimalist. Have you ever heard of minimalism? It's basically minimizing your amount of stuff to just what those things are that are needed to live the life you want to experience, to show up in the world the way that you want to show up. And as I am identifying these things in my home that I want to get rid of, it's very funny because I'm finding that there's a hesitancy in getting rid of those things. Things I haven't used for literally years. But it's like, I might need this one day. Something might happen to where I need this. And what I am finding, and I can be honest because I'm among family, what I am finding is that it is evidencing to me inadequate faith. I have placed too much faith in the stuff and not in the spiritual law. So even if there's something that I'm thinking that I might need, if I come to a situation down the line to where I need it, I put my faith in the law and I get it when I need it, not hoard it. So it's a very interesting journey, and that is the key to making giving and receiving work. Don't fret about giving. Don't allow a sense of lack to come in because if you feel like if you give it, you won't have it. Don't put your faith in the object of your giving. Put your faith in the spiritual law. Put your faith in God so that you start from faith in God, but the goal is to grow the faith of God. Different idea. Having the faith of God is a whole different idea. So place your faith in the law and don't allow lack to come in and permeate, because it's not about holding it and possessing it. It's about having it when you need it. And having it when you need it, that's the law. Now, gang, I don't want to minimize anything that is serious. I really don't. However, where we are right now in our world, with the prevalent concern that is going on right now in our world, is giving us a perfect opportunity to practice the law of giving and receiving. As we all know, there is great concern and incredible concern about the COVID-19 virus or the coronavirus that is going around right now. It has affected a lot of people around the world, and unfortunately, some people have even lost their lives because of this virus. And we are seeing a lot of concern about this, and the concern is justified. So in that justified concern, we have an opportunity to practice the law of giving and receiving. There are reasonable precautions to take that have been identified by scientists and doctors. Precautions such as washing our hands often, disinfecting our spaces, minimizing our physical contact with other people. There are also things that we can do to boost our immune system. There are certain foods that we can eat and certain experiences that we can have, like sunlight and, fostering other ways of connecting with other people other than just physically. So all of these things are reasonable precautions to take. Here is another precaution that we can take as those of us on the spiritual path: prayer and meditation. What prayer and meditation does, among all the host of benefits that it does, are two things relative to what we're experiencing right now. One, prayer and meditation have been scientifically proven to boost immunity in the physical body. And number two, by prayer and meditation, we can be anchored in the source of peace and anchored in the source of presence and anchored in the source of centering. So as we as a world community navigate this very real challenge, the place within us from which we navigate the challenge is what's going to make the difference. So we can navigate this challenge from a place of presence and not panic, from a place of being prepared yet not scared. And by allowing ourselves to receive the peace that passes understanding, allowing ourselves to be re-engaged in the presence of the divine, we can in turn, after receiving that, we can in turn give that out. Give that sense of calming presence out into those of us that we come in contact with. There's a lot of panic, and there's a lot of concern. But the concern should be limited to what is justifiable and healthy. So we can give out a sense of peace. When someone that we encounter is lost in the panic and in the fear, we can give them a sense of peace. We can let them know the reasonable precautions to take. We can let them know to just breathe. We can pass along helpful information that will help them be prepared and will give the best possibilities. We can pass along information on certain foods to eat. But we can be that calming presence. We can be that calming presence. And in doing so, we do just the same way that Jesus did. When the disciples were worried and concerned because it really became real to them that Jesus was going to depart, Jesus said these calming words: "Peace I leave you, my peace I give to you. Not my peace in the sense of Jesus, the person's personal sense of peace, but my peace, the Christ nature coming forward, and we're giving that sense of peace based upon oneness with God. I don't want to minimize the concern that's happening, but I really do feel like this can be an opportunity for humanity to give birth to new ways of being, new ways of seeing, new ways of connection. And as we rise to meet this challenge, as humanity has the capacity to do, we can be a part of that calming presence and that calming collective consciousness in which and from which the solution to this thing arises. And as we give that out into the world and to the people around us, we have an opportunity to receive that back. Giving and receiving. We are meant to be givers, and we are meant to receive. So embrace that. Be open to it. Allow that knowingness to permeate your being and your heart and your mind, and allow the giving and receiving activity and the energy and blessing that comes from it to flow into you and go out of you. And you will be amazed. You will be absolutely amazed at the amount of spiritual growth, at the amount of blessings, at the amount of fortification and guidance that you receive. You will be able to accomplish things that you had no earthly idea that you were able to accomplish because you have placed yourself more squarely and more soundly into God's flowing activity that brings about beautiful things from the unmanifest into manifested expression. You will be able to more so realize the true nature of yourself and more so realize your divine potential. And you'll be able to tap into it more readily because once you know that divine potential, you are already mind-trained, prayer-conditioned, and heart-centered to being in the divine flow. So embrace giving and receiving. Be an open channel for God's goodness into the world. And buckle up and watch the magic unfold in your lives. As always, I hold you all in very sacred space. And into that space, I speak a simple word of prayer. Light, life, and love to you all. God bless you.